Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, Alignment and Profiles, Back to the Basics webinar for Civil 3D. Seth, okay. So just a few quick announcements before we go ahead and get started. All attendee lines will be muted. You can send us your questions via the Q&A or chat boxes. This webcast will be recorded and sent out if you did register, which most of you should have if you're here. And if you do have any questions, please give us a call at 305-445-6480 or shoot us an email at info@ddscad.com. And that info will actually be presented at the end as well, so don't worry about that. All right, and without further ado, I'll turn it over to Seth Cohen.
All right, thanks, Alan, and welcome everybody to our webinar. So today I just wanted to kind of go over just some of the basic stuff. Some people I get a lot of sometimes support questions on just drawing alignments and doing profiles, and a lot of people I find seem a little confused on it. So I wanted to kind of just have a nice webinar and just go over the basics of it and all the settings, styles, and things behind them, how to lay out your tools. I also want to discuss super elevation. That's obviously something that's important for alignments, especially if you're doing any kind of design that requires it. We'll dabble into a little bit of alignment reporting, and then we'll dive into the profiles and profile view settings, tools, layout tools, and all that good stuff. All right, so let's get out of PowerPoint right now. There's no reason to stay there. All right, so let's just start from the beginning, okay? The first thing, of course, we want to discuss is kind of the settings and styles and all the kind of what I call the guts of the Civil 3D information or objects within Civil 3D that you want to be aware of course, before you start kind of drawing. And this is with anything Civil 3D, okay? So, of course, you know, I'm in my drawing here. This one's already a completed kind of file. I'll show you the alignment once we kind of go over the settings and stuff here. But in your settings tab in the tool space, the first thing I want to talk about is actually, I like to, and this might be a repeat for, I may have, you know, talked about this in other webinars, but I just really, it's really important to have an understanding of the drawing settings a little bit at first, because if I right click here on the actual name of the file in the settings tab here and go to edit drawing settings, one of the real, it's a really small thing, but if you go to the object layers tab and you set your layers appropriately here, as you can see, I'm basically following the FDOT standards. I basically use their state kit all the time. And if you look here, just setting your layers for the object itself will help just a lot of just kind of just dealing with it in CAD and dealing with it when you go to plot or you're working with it in a reference file. And the reason being is, of course, for most jobs, you're going to have typically one or two or more than one alignment. And so to have the ability to freeze, thaw, etc., those different objects is a very nice option without having to change the style or look what layer the style is on, etc. So if you're not familiar with this, the way the way Civil 3D treats Civil 3D objects, it's like a block, right? In AutoCAD, a block goes on a layer, but the stuff inside the block can also be on their own unique layers. So Civil 3D is the same, Civil 3D objects are treated the same exact way. This option right here allows you to set the layer for the quote unquote block, but it's the Civil 3D object. And then the styles, right? The styles themselves, the alignment style, the surface style, whatever style it is, controls all the subcomponents, like the tangent or the curve or the PI or the whatever, okay? And so that's basically what how this works. And having this set up correctly can really save you it's just some frustrations. So if you look over here for the alignment and alignment labeling and a lot of other, in fact, all of these, I set the layers set, but with the other unique thing, and this isn't done by the DOT, so if you want to set this up in your own template, this is how I work when I do this, is you set a suffix up. Again, this is just kind of, you know, standard Civil 3D, but it really does help a lot. You set a suffix, and what I do is I just do an underscore asterisk. If you want to do a dash, do a dash. What that does is it basically allows you to create an alignment, and then the asterisk is a wild card. As you can see right over here, it says if you enter an asterisk, it acts as it'll enter the value there of the name of the object that you give it. So if you give your new alignment the name of County Road 125, then it'll go under a layer called CL underscore construction, CL construction underscore DP underscore CR 125. And then it'll do the same thing for the labeling. So you can actually uniquely, sometimes you want to just freeze the labels. and you want to see the line because that's all you want to work with. It's just it's a simple thing, but it really helps tremendously when you're working through, day in and day out on a project. Okay. So again, that was right click here, edit drawing settings, and then object layers tab. Okay. So that's at the high level of the whole drawing. Then, of course, as you get into the actual object type itself, right, we have the alignment category right here. So to get to the actual feature settings, you right click here, right? So edit feature settings right here. And the way that you explain, Civil 3D has a hierarchical setting. There are 3 levels of settings. You have drawing settings, which we just talked about. You have feature settings, which we're talking about right now. And then there's another set of settings, which I'll just jump into real quickly here, called command settings. So these are all the commands related to alignments. And basically it's hierarchical. In other words, it starts at the top first, then the feature settings will override this setting, and then the command setting will override both those settings. Okay, that's how it basically works. Okay, so if I right click here, go to edit feature settings again, and basically the ones that we're concerned with are the ones over here. So what are your default styles that you want to appear when you start a specific command? Create align by layout, create offset alignment, etc. Okay, and so you want this set up. Now again, if you're using the stake out of the box, it's kind of set up for you already. But if let's say you're working on a project that is, because an alignment isn't just necessarily a road, or an alignment could be a ditch, it could be a berm, it could be whatever it needs to follow a horizontal path, right? That's, you should have an understanding of what an alignment really, kind of is, right? And so if you're working with berms, maybe you want to set this to the f.berm style, right? So I could actually go up here and set this to f.berm or f.ditch, whatever you want to set it to, and then that'll be the default style that gets applied. Okay. Same thing with the additional stuff here. Same thing with the names. If you don't want the name to be, alignment name, whatever, or over here, then you could actually call, like sometimes I'll actually, put in there, it says rename me with exclamation points. That way I remember to actually give it a name. Or for other users at the company to make sure they actually give you a name. Because sometimes people just click OK and before you know it, you have 5 alignments named alignment 1, alignment 2, alignment 3, and it looks kind of silly. And then of course you have station indexing, what's your default station incrementing, cube elevation options. Again, I'm not going to go over all these settings in detail. I kind of just want to focus on the layout tools, but I do want to show them. And of course you have cant options, rail alignment options if you're doing those types of alignments, automatic widening around curves, criteria-based design options here. So do you want to have that turned on by default? If not, you say false, you set it to yes, and then what a default design speed would be. And then dynamic alignment, highlighting, all this kind of stuff here. One feature I do want to point out specifically is this one right here, this implied point of intersection options here. This is one you want to make sure you set properly. Right now, this is set to do not display implied points of intersection. So those are PIs, right? And so basically, I recommend you definitely put this on at least individual or change in alignment direction, because this way your PI grip will appear even if you create your alignment. Typically, it's not always, but for the most part, as long as you create alignments with tangents and curves, not necessarily like floating and that type of stuff, and we'll talk about that in a second, your PI will appear even if it wasn't created using the PI method, okay? Because there are different methods to creating alignments, of course. And then you have constraint editing options. And again, these are basically, these 2 settings here are per alignment, and you can change it after the fact, like in the alignment properties. But basically, it's nice to have it set up initially, okay? That way it shows up immediately, okay? So those are the settings. Then we have feature settings. So then we have the command settings, which are basically when you start a command, like if I go to the Home tab, Alignments, and then Alignment Creation Tools, this is the Create Alignment Layout command. If you look right there on the bottom of that tooltip, it says Create Alignment Layout. Well, right here is that command. So if I want to override the settings defined by the feature settings, I can actually go right to the command itself and say, you know what, for this command, I actually want to change this to something totally unique here or something totally different. Let's say f.existing, and notice how this toggle is saying it's overriding. So you can do that per command. Now it's overriding every setting higher up. And also you'll see, you can kind of tell by the icon right here, this icon, see how that's a feature icon. And this right here is basically a command icon. So in other words, these are specific options that will appear or that are available when you run this command. And you can set these default options. What's your default alignment type when you run this command? typically you want it to be center line, but you could change it here if you wanted to, okay? So that's what basically kind of the settings in the command settings are. All right, I'll just hit cancel here. All right, so those are different, the levels of settings that you have in there, okay? Then of course we have the styles, right? There are two types of object styles in the world of Civil 3D. We have object styles, which are defined right here, and then we have label styles, which are defined right here. And of course, depending on the object that you expand, you'll have unique styles or label styles, etc., for those kind of subcategories, right? So an alignment has stationing. So you're going to have stationing with major, minor geometry points, profile geometry points, design speeds, super elevation points, etc. So you have all these different styles. Again, I'm not going to get into all of them, but you get the idea that basically it has all these different categories for that, okay? And then of course you have the styles, and just so you know, I'm using a reference template. That's why you see a little paperclip icon right there. So it's coming from another template. But basically, I'll just go to one here that I've already kind of copied or created here. And as you can see here, you're basically defining, simple stuff like, I want to enable radius snapping. Yes, I do. No, I don't, etc. So what markers do I want for this style? This is a right-of-way style. I don't want any markers. I want it to just show the right-of-way line. So you're not going to have any markers or any kind of, at the PIs, the end of the alignment, etc. And then, of course, the display tab is where you want your subcomponents to appear. Again, remember, the drawing settings defines what layer the whole object goes on, and then the style of whatever object it is defines the subcomponent layer. So I could define, whatever layer that the object goes on is going to be totally different than this layer here. It could be whatever layers you want for the lines, the curves, the line extensions, etc. And of course, this toggle right here, right, the light bulb, this controls how, what will turn on and what will not turn on, right? So if you want to see the extensions, you'll turn it on. If you don't, then you turn it off, etc. Okay. Don't forget as well, with the alignment styles, or any styles for that matter, most of them will have, 1 to 4 categories: plan, model, and section. In other words, in the plan view, what do you want it to show as? And that's basically right here. The model view is when you rotate the view, do you want to see the actual Civil 3D object? So for an alignment, you may want to turn it off, but maybe you don't, because this is an alignment. It's going to be at 0 elevation. It's not going to necessarily do you any good. It's not going to give you any 3D type information. So that's what that is. But then what's very useful is when you do eventually get a corridor model or a cross section, basically just in the corridor model, this will actually show up in the corridor section editor, which is really useful, especially if you have right-of-way and you're looking at your section or your model. You can actually see your right-of-way limits and see, hey, my ditch is not working. I need to tighten up the back slope. Whatever it is, it's very useful to just so it shows like a vertical line where that alignment is. And you can set this to specific colors like, hey, this is where I have my clear zone. This is where I have my right-of-way limits. This is where I have an edge of wetland. Whatever it is, you can uniquely define styles that will allow them to appear, in the cross-section editor, which is very, very useful, okay? And then, of course, as I mentioned before, we have all the labels. And I'm not going to get into all the labels here, right? But basically, you have these categories, one called label sets, and then you have the label set is basically, it's a conglomeration of labels for the different types of stationing. So if we look at this alignment here, right, this is a major station label. This is a minor station label. This is a geometry point label, right? And I don't have my super elevations displayed, but there are super elevation labels, etc. So in fact, I can actually just quickly select this here, and I'll actually change this, or I'll use, if I go to edit alignment labels here, and then, so the label set is a grouping of labels that you want to appear for specific alignments. So if I click OK here, notice how now that adjusts that a little bit here, and I should have my super elevation labels, which I don't see, so I must have got rid of it. That's fine. But if I had super elevation, it would actually add those in there, etc. Okay. So these, if I go to one of these here, you'll see basically, if I go to the labels tab here, it builds in the different types. So major, minor, geometry, station equations, design speeds, etc. Those are all basically defined right over here, right? It's grabbing them from these categories. The theory, the reason behind them is, imagine if you had to add all those label types to an alignment manually every single time. It would be a pain in the butt. So you have label sets that basically group a set of labels to your object, your alignment, and this also works in the profile view as well, okay? And then you have station offset labels, which we're not going to get into greatly here, but basically just define different labeling types of how you want to do station offsets. And then of course you have curve labels, and you also have tangent labels and PI labels and all that good stuff. So in other words, like things for like the curve data, right? You see this curve data there. That's a segment label. So this is a curve segment. And then of course in the tangent, you want a bearing distance. So that's a tangent label, okay? And again, all of those are defined right here, which of course behooves the point that you want to have styles set up before you actually begin working with Civil 3D alignments or anything with Civil 3D. Again, the FDOT state kit provides all these kind of for you already, okay? So that's basically what all the settings and features behind them. All right, so let's talk about the layout tools. So first thing I'll just kind of show you here that I already have an alignment in my drawing and a profile. This is actually a completed project. It's going to be constructed probably this year. This phase of the project is actually already done, and this is another phase of this project here. But I want to just kind of show you what I've kind of done here. So this alignment, so the first thing about this project is you'll see these wetlands right here. If you look here, I've got some wetlands right there. I got some wetlands right there. We have to basically snake our way into between this wetlands. So that's what this road here, it's an access road, or it's a road now. It's not an access road. It's a road for a school development or a school complex right over here, okay? So instead of using this old road, right, we had to realign the entire road. Basically, this is going to be closed off here, and this is for buses and for faculty as well as students. And then there's another entrance up here. So obviously, based upon whatever criteria you want, this is a DOT road here. This is a county road. So there are certain criteria that you have to make sure that you apply. Like you have to be at least a minimum of, I think it's 500 feet or whatever it is from entrances. DOT usually doesn't want to give you additional ones depending on how it's classified, that type of stuff. But so we were far enough away from this, and we basically put it in here. This is the only way that we could get this road in here. So this is a phase one of this project. But what I did basically was we had phase one, because budget-wise, that's what we were, money-wise, we had to kind of stop the project somewhere in this area here. We kind of calculated near this point. And as you can see here, by these line types, we have wetland. And so, of course, we're going to have wetland impacts. So before, we don't want to have to phase that in for phase, or we don't want to have that in phase one. We just wanted to get it, permitted through water management. We have a couple of ponds here in phase one, because as you can see, we're off of the existing road. Here's the existing road, right? So we're off of it here. So we have this pond here in this location, basically to compensate for that, for the relocation of the road. But we tied back into existing because the money took us close to this area. And as you can see here from this right here, this is the alignment of phase one. But what I did, because I knew there was going to be a second phase of the project that was going to do the entire road all the way up through here, was I basically just I did some alignment past that so I could at least tie into it. So what I'm going to show you now is kind of I'll redo that phase. I'll freeze this layer. We'll just start a brand new alignment so you can kind of see how that's done. And we'll go through the different tools and how you can go through it. So that's basically just kind of a little bit of the scope of this project here, okay? And as you can see, it's a rural area. Well, I don't know if you can't really tell that, but it's a rural area. It's got woods here. So we have some constraints that we have to worry about. And I want to show you some tricks and tips and stuff to kind of help you when you're doing that design, okay? All right, so the first thing I want to show you is this right here. So as you can see here, what I did was I made this little tangent. So this is the existing, where they tie back into existing here. But I did it from the PC of this first phase, and then that PC will basically continue, as you can see, down this road here. So I need to pick that back up, right? That's what I need to do. I'm going to keep this on for now just to kind of show you exactly how I did that. And then I'll just freeze it, and then I'll just start from scratch so you guys can see that, kind of how to do that. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is how do you create alignments. First thing is, if you go to the Home tab and then create Design Panel, we have the alignment drop down right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick on Alignment Creation Tools. And of course, any of the alignment creation type tools are all in this drop down here, okay? So I'll pick Alignment Creation Tools. And again, notice how it's using these default settings that all comes to the feature settings, et cetera, right? So I'll go ahead and just select this here, and I'll just call this one County Road 55th. All right. And then what's my start stationing? Let's say I'm going to start with 500 plus a pair. And then basically we have what style. Again, these are all, there's no magic happening. This is coming from the feature settings / command settings, just everything, right? And these are the ones I want. And then this does need to have design criteria. So just an FYI, this is going to be a 45-mile-an-hour design speed. We're going to post it for 40. So I'm going to toggle this on. And then what I want to do is I want to actually grab the FDOTs, which is actually in here, but it's under, I'm in 2021, but that's okay. We'll just go to 2020 and we'll grab this. We'll go to the ENU, and this is under quarter. Where are we here? That. And that's the content library. I think it's under here. Nope, not there. Actually, let me hit the back button here. We'll just pick one. I don't want to waste too much time doing this. Where are we? We'll go back here. We'll just pick this. But FDOT does exist in the, and that'll pop up actually if you're in 2020. The 2021 release should be, I think, if I remember correctly, DOT is looking to do it in January. So I'll just pick this one here. And then, of course, you can pick your, and you can change this afterwards. What's your Emax? So let's say I've got an Emax of 8%. I've got a 2-lane, and then I'm not going to use design check sets. That's basically checking for tangent lengths. It checks for curve length, minimum radii. That's all going to be okay with criteria. So we'll just click OK here. All right, and then this brings up the alignment layout tools. Okay. All right, so basically what I want to do here, just to show you kind of a little what you can do. So I have this tangent right here. I'm going to actually start, I've got it drawn here. Again, I could just draw it and then edit afterwards, but I've just got some go-bys here. So the first thing I like to point out is that you don't have to draw your alignment like sequentially. That's, a lot of people don't realize that, is that you don't have to actually do it so that it's like in a row and I got to get this one done and then the next one, etc. You can do different things all over the place. It doesn't really matter. Think of these tools as like drawing CAD. It's just for alignment. It's just like, but these are like the line tool, the arc tool, the fillet tool, etc. So I'll go ahead and pick these drop downs, and what you'll see here is that they're categorized. You have 3 types of geometric type elements. You have fixed, floating, and free. And you might not think it's a big deal, but it does help you in understanding how Civil 3D constrains those elements, the tangent element or the curve element. And if we look at the curve drop down right here, we have fixed, floating, and free. Right? It's the same kind of terminology. This is just a geometric term that they use. So I'll just do a fixed line here, because what I want to do is I'm going to actually start, I've got this starting point here at my PT. Let me put my snaps on here. So I'll just snap here, and I will snap here. Now, what that's going to do initially, if I do that, you'll see it starts the stationing at 500. Now, I eventually want my alignment to start back at the end there. So here's what I'm going to do. If I look at this here, let me just do the regular AutoCAD measure command here, and I'll just set this to radius, and I believe this radius is 6,900. Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually add a curve at the end here. So if you look over here in this drop down here, you have something called floating. So this is a floating curve. And if you look at the more floating curves, I can do floating curve from entity and through point length, radius length, or through point direction at point. I'll pick on this one here. And again, as I always say, you've probably heard me say this, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. Select entity to attach to. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on the end of this entity right here. All right. Oh, I picked the wrong one there. Let's pick this one here. All right. Which way is it going? Clockwise or counterclockwise? And you might think it's going clockwise because I need to go down, but it's the opposite because I'm back here. So I'll just do counterclockwise. Actually, no, it is clockwise in this case, because clockwise you go this way. So it's actually going to be counterclockwise. Yeah, it's going to be counterclockwise. All right. So what's my radius? 6,900. Press enter. And it says specify curve length. Well, I don't know what that is, but guess what? I don't have to. Just click anywhere in space. Notice how it's automatically dynamically kind of picking that for me. And then what I can actually do here is I can actually go right to the PC, right? If you look here, I'll actually change it afterwards. I'll just click here and I'll press enter. Notice how I got stationings that are less than 500. We'll change that in a second. And I'll just pick here, and now what I can do is pick that grip. Notice how I get a different type of grip than what you might normally be used to, because this is a floating element. And again, what I'm trying to show you is that you can create just the actual elements themselves in any order. It's just a matter of picking the right tool. That's all. It's just like anything in Civil 3D or CAD. You just got to kind of learn the process and which tool it is. All right. So now let's say I want this to be 500 plus a pair. Well, it's 494. How do I change that? So I'm going to go ahead and select this alignment, and I'll right click here and go to alignment properties. And so if you go into the station control tab, you'll see it actually has a reference point that it starts from. It's saying this XY is 500 plus a pair. So instead, I want this new one. But if you look here, there's a nice little pick button here. I can actually just click on this, and it's warning you, hey, if you've done some other stuff here, you want to be careful. You're going to mess up stuff a lot. And that's okay. I want to do that. So I'm going to just go to the endpoint here, and then I'll click apply. And now you'll notice that 500 plus 00 begins there. So as you can see, you don't have to, I've seen this happen many a time. Like users will like draw the alignment, they'll mess up in the middle of it and say, oh gosh, I got to start all over again. And I've seen people literally delete, or they'll trace it with like AutoCAD elements afterwards and then draw it in a row. And there's no need to do that. There are so many tools, all the tools available to make edits to your alignments are right up here. And just so you know, what I'm showing you here with the alignment layout tools, they're very similar with the profile layout tools, okay? All right, so now that I've got my starting point, what I want to do is let me go ahead and freeze this. Now again, here's the advantage to actually naming or using those drawing settings. I can actually use the layer freeze tool right here to freeze this alignment. Notice how it's not freezing any of my other alignments because they're all on unique layers. That's what I like about that drawing setting. I'm going to go ahead and even freeze this one here as well, and I'll freeze its labeling. Right, so I can freeze that, and then I'll freeze it again because I had two on top of each other. And now I'm just stuck with my my one alignment. Now I can kind of begin going here. Okay. All right, so that's why you want to use that, set that up in the drawing settings. Again, once that's set up in your template, you're good to go. All right, so now that I've got my tangent in here, so here's my PT. All right, so I can extend this however I want to, but I'm going to leave it here. So all right, so basically if I look here. I can already tell looking at this, now we're going to get into the design of this road here, or the proposed design. I'm going to try and stay on existing as much as possible. Right away is some concern, but not that much of a concern because we have go ahead from the county and the DOT, whatever right away it has to be purchased. We've already kind of, discussed this with property owners. We've had a preliminary meeting and they've all come on board to say, yep, we're okay with putting a road in. And whatever we come up with eventual values for right away, they'll obviously the county or the DOT will compensate them for that. So there are some other constraints as well. So if you look over here, I've got a wetland. I have to tie my alignment back in here because this whole wetland goes down here and this wetland comes up here. I cannot, yes, we're going to have some impacts, but I need to minimize them and show water management that we've done that, right? So I have a tangent over here and I have a tangent over here, right? So this is what I'm trying to show you is that you can just start drawing. So I'm going to just kind of make an assumption that I'm going to have some way, I'm going to have to draw a tangent here and a tangent here. One of the things I like to do is I like to usually draw my tangents first. Those are easier. And then I fill it stuff in the middle. All right, so I know I have a tangent coming this way. So I'll just draw a tangent like this. And again, it doesn't matter how big you make it because we can just keep going here. One of my other constraints is the utilities. I've got an overhead electric right here. So I want to hug this side of the road as much as possible without having to change too many utility poles or relocate them, or because that's an expensive cost to the county. The county has to pay for that. So we're going to do that. As you can see, usually, it hugs one side of the road there, right? It's hugging this side. Then it goes to this side of the road here, or actually still it stays on that side, but we have some here. So we might have some impacts, but that's okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and for now, I'll just kind of hug this edge. My road is 12 feet wide and I have a clear zone. It's a 45-mile-an-hour clear zone. So my clear zone is 29 feet. Okay. From edge travelway. All right. So I'll just go ahead and just for now, I'll just kind of maybe snap here and I'll just kind of go over here. All right. And so now I've got those two tangents. I'll keep going afterwards in a second here, but I want to kind of clean this up here. So if we look here, the stationing isn't continuing, and that's okay. The reason it's not continuing is Civil 3D doesn't yet know, how to actually do that. Let me actually get rid of this here. That's not related to this, just so you know. It doesn't know because it's not connected. So the next thing to do would be to fillet this, right? So if I go over here to the curves drop down, I've got fixed, floating, and free. So if you look here, there's a free curve fillet between two entities radius. All right, so if I click on this here, I'll go ahead and just select this here. And then again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. Oops, I didn't get it to select first entity. So let's go ahead and make sure I grab that. So let's pick this here. And then the next one's here. And I want this to be less than 180. That's true. Press enter. And my radius. So my radius here. So here's what I want to do. I want to put the minimum radius allowable per my design speed to minimize the impact, because obviously the more off the road we are, you know, the more length of curve, we're going to need to have a bigger pond, right? So what I've done here, and I'll show you how to get here in a second, I have taken pictures. If you look here, in fact, I'll show you the folder I have this in. I've created a folder called Super Curves. And what it does is, what I did was I took pictures of the design criteria editor for 25, 30, 35, 40, right, basically up all the way up to 55. I haven't designed a road yet that's kind of above. No, I think I've done a 60, but you get what I'm saying. Is I took a snapshot. You can look at the DOT manual or the DOT criteria or the design manual, et cetera. That's fine, if you know. But for me, it's much easier. This table. This comes from Civil 3D. This comes from the design manual. And if you look, it's looking at this category, and you can basically tell, just looking at the radius that you have here, what your super elevation should be. Yes, you can do the math if you want to, but this is going to be close enough for doing design, right? So if I look at this here, my minimum radius, this is a 10% elevation. That's fine. We'll just go with this one, 10% super. So I need to have a 575, right? If I go a little bit farther down, that's fine. I'm not going to do 573. That's just silly. You always have even increments of 5 for your radii. So I'll just do 575. That's the radius that I want. So back in Civil 3D, I'll do 575, press enter, and we'll do the same thing for here. So I'll go ahead and click on my first entity here, right? Typically, when you're going to go, if you're going between two curves like this, you probably want the same kind of radius. It's good for, good for driving. All right, and so I get 575 there, press enter. The second I press enter, notice how the stationing automatically connects or automatically appears because it's now connected, right? It actually knows what it actually is, okay? And so if I look at this here, actually, this does not look like 575 to me. This looks like a little bigger. Let me see what this radius is here. I'm just doing the MEA. Oh, it is. Okay, we're good. All right. So the other thing, too, that I want to actually do, one of the other criteria that you have to kind of be aware of is length of curve, right? I think if I remember correctly, the design manual shows 15V, 15 times your design speed. So if I have design speed of 45, so that's 45 times 15. So I need 675, I think, or the minimum is 400 or 450. I can't remember. So 400, let's go with 400 or 675. So how do I do that? So what I'll do is I'll just go to the annotate tab here, add labels, and I'll go to the alignment and then add alignment labels here. And then what I want to do is I want to grab the multiple segments, and then I've got my styles already predefined here. So, and I got the bearing, the full curve data, click add here, and then we will just do that. And then now what that gives me is it gives me my curve data, and my length is 441, good enough. It's, I think, like I said, it's 400 or 450, I can't remember. So we're good there, and this is probably very similar, and I've got 377. So I may have to change that. So let me show you a couple of other little tricks here that that you might need to do. The first thing is the right of way. All right, I want to be able to know what my right of way limits are so that I can minimize my impact. I also want to know what my clear zone is so I can change or adjust the alignment so that my utilities, whatever they are within or outside the clear zone. So we don't have to have, it can be in the right of way, that's fine, but I don't want to have to worry about them being in the clear zone. So select your alignment, and of course, as with anything Civil 3D, you select the object, and basically it appears, you get a nice contextual ribbon. So if you look over here, I have this offset alignment tool, and I'll go ahead and create one for now. Actually, I'll create 2 on each side, and I'll show you why in a second. So we'll do 2, and we'll do on this side as well. And I'm going to give both of them the style of right-of-way. And I don't want any labels. I don't care about that. I don't have any design criteria. I don't have any offset profiles yet. So basically, I don't need to do that. So we'll just go ahead and click OK here. And as you can see here, I just gave it some default distance. And the reason being is I'm going to go ahead and select this offset alignment here because I want to show, however many I need. Where's my grip here? And my grip should be, where's my grip? It's either usually at the end or at the beginning, or is it right there? There it is. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pick this grip, and as long as you have dynamic input turned on, this is my right-of-way. Let's say for this right-of-way, we're going to allow a right-of-way of 80 feet. So if you look there, it says 20. So I'm going to do 40, and now that's my right-of-way, okay? And we'll do the same thing for this one here. This is going to be that as well. So we'll just go here, click that, and go to 40. And oops, I get the wrong one. Do that again. Come on. And we'll click, and that should. Okay, that's actually, it's got the wrong field. I'm looking for the dynamic input field. Let's try that. So this is 40. I don't know why it's not working. if it's not working, which it should be, just right click here and then edit offset parameters here. And we'll just do, oh, I was typing positive. That's why. That's my bad. You got to do -40. That's right. All right. So if I was typing -40, it would work just fine. Now for this one here, I do want one for the lanes eventually. If I was doing intersection design, you definitely want to do that. But for this one here, this one I need to do my clear zone. So if it's 29 feet, that's 12. That's 17 feet, right? That's what this is. Actually, no, it needs to be. This from the center line. My bad. So this is just 29. All right. So there's my clear zone, and I would do the same thing with this one here. And I'll go ahead and click on this, and this will be -29. Don't forget that negative. All right. Now for these two here, I don't think I have a style here, but I could create one called clear zone. I think there is a clear zone line. Oh, there it is actually right there. Let's see. Here we go. So now I've got the clear zone, and I don't know if you can see it or not. It's probably a little, if I just change my background color here real quick. Now you can kind of see, right? So that's showing you a little red dash. I'll change it back to black here. But that is now my clear zone. And what this allows me to do is this. This is what I love about the offset alignments, especially when you're doing preliminary design or just design in general, is now I can select my alignment and I can say, okay, my right-of-way is here. Where's my clear zone? My clear zone is right there. And as you can see, my utility, I guess pretty good. I'm barely past it, so that's fine. But if you weren't, what you could do is simply move this around, right? And that's the beauty of this, is that you can see as you make adjustments, right, it's automatically changing the offset alignments there. So that's a really great functionality. I absolutely love that functionality, okay? Now, I could continue drawing tangents here. I'm not going to bother because I still have to get the profiles. What I want to show you is super elevation as well. Now, obviously, one of the things, and I'm not here to teach you super elevation, but I'm assuming you have an understanding of it. If not, you can Google super elevation and how it works. DOT has their own way of doing super elevation. What I will show you is I've got basically I've got the spreadsheet here that I use all the time for every job. And what it basically is this. It's as you can see, it's going to do all the math for me. Right, it's just a really simple kind of functionality because one of the things we have to worry about is, if for a design speed of 45, in this case, my Emax is going to be 10%, right? That that basically was shown over here through this curve, right? Again, depending on the radius, you'll have different super elevation rates. Again, if you know super elevation, you get the concept. So what I need to do here, though, in my spreadsheet is this. So I've got my PC. So I'll go ahead and just bring this up here. Let's make that a little smaller this way here. And I'll go this way here. So let's say in this curve here, so my PC is 508, 30, 32. That's good enough. I don't need to go crazy. So first thing I need to do is what's my full super elevation rate? Actually, I back up. What is my width of my lane? So I got 12-foot lanes. What's my super elevation transition ratio? And you get that by looking at the plan standards at DOT. Usually 1 to 200. I think if it's above 55, it's 1 to I can't remember. It goes up 220 or 240. I can't remember. All right. So basically, this is 1 to 200. That's fine. Then what's my super elevation rate? So this is going to be 10%. Right. My normal crown is -2, and all I have to do is basically type in my curve PC, which is 508, 32. And then what's my curve PT? My curve PT is 512.73. Let's go over here and 512.73. And then what percentage of the transition do I want on the tangent? And again, every DOT is different, every municipality is different, but FDOT is 80%. They prefer 80%, but AASHTO allows you to do 50% if you need to. All right, so basically that's the transition that you want on the tangent. So what this spreadsheet does for me, which is of course very useful, is as I'm going through here, I can see, okay, my normal crown is 506, my zero crossover is 5650, so I'm in full super at 508.90. My main goal for this one, as I'm doing an alignment creation or alignment design, is to basically say, where's my runoff? Because obviously, as you can see here, I don't have a very big tangent runoff. You can't just put another these curves together without having some sort of tangent section that is long enough to have the runout. So my runout is, or my normal crown is at 515.03. So what I would basically do is I would go to the next curve, right? And so this one here is also going to be a 10%. And it's going to be here, my PC at this one is 515.88. So I've got 515.88. And did I do that right? Let's see. Yep, I did. And my PT for this one is 51966. So 51966. All right, so my whole goal is this. I need to make sure that my normal crown is run out at 51503, and then, or not, but basically this one doesn't start at 51503, which it actually starts at 51396. So we're way off. So there's a couple of things you can do here. A, I can just do 50% and see what that gets me. Again, I would probably try 70 first. I wouldn't do 50 per se, but you can do that. So this ends at 51417, and this one begins at 513. So I could then do this one at 50%, and then 51444, 514. So we're good enough. We have enough tangent run out. Or what you could have done was I could look at my zero cross slope, and if that's at 51369, and where's my zero cross slope on this one? It's at, let's say it was at 51370. I'm good, basically, or 51375. I would split the difference and say, okay, you basically have a curve that's just it never gets out of the zero on that one, and basically just curves, it goes the opposite, but it stays zero cross slope, and it goes right into super from there, okay? So you can use your level crown, but that's very useful. Now, how do you enter this is like so. If you just go ahead and select this here, and then basically if you go to the super elevation right here, you go to calculate edit, and what I normally do is I just go in and I just run it. I run it by default, but you can't trust it. I hate to say that, but it never does exactly the DOT. And I've actually contacted the FDOT, and this was about 2 years ago. They're aware of now that there's a problem, and it doesn't do it for you automatically. In other words, you actually are going to have to go in and edit this afterwards, and it is what it is. So you just hit next here. You go through the criteria. I've got 12-foot lanes, -2% is my normal crown slope. I do want to calculate my normal shoulders. It's 6 feet, -6%. I do want rollover. And of course, DOT, as you guys should know, is 7% removal. And I'll hit next here. And then what you would do is you would browse for the DOT design manual. Again, this will be in your drop down if you're on 2020. Then you pick your, default Emax 2-lane, and then what you want by default here. I never do the curve smoothing. It doesn't work. It's unnecessary because I don't need curve smoothing. I have my super. I always do super calcs. Never, ever, ever trust the software. I just don't. All right. And I don't want to resolve overlaps like the one that we have here. I'll just click finish here. And then what you do is you get the tabular editor here. And you'll notice here that now you have some stations that you can work with. And then what I do, as you can see right here, if I go back to my Excel spreadsheet, I've actually already set this up properly. If you look, I actually equated exactly what needs to be defined in Civil 3D. It's reading, if I double click this, right? It's reading the actual stuff here, right? So again, if you have, if you do have a curve that exceeds 6% or 5% for that matter, right? You have to have a shoulder rollover, right? Because you can't have a 6 and a 1. It's got to be, if you go up to 2% for reverse crown, your shoulder is 5%, right? Again, if you get the concept of that, that's kind of what this is all here. So in this case, I have end normal crown, level crown, begin shoulder rollover, reverse crown, etc. And then all these are the values that need to be entered into Civil 3D. So if you go into Civil 3D, you would just find those values right here, and you would go in and enter and edit them. Okay, that's basically how you kind of enter your super elevation. Okay, that's just how that kind of works. All right. Now, where do you get that criteria that I showed you in that image? So what you do, I'm going to actually, I'll just freeze this one here. We'll just let's do we'll go ahead. A little trick if you want to get your alignment back that was from before. So this is this one here. I'll just go ahead and right click here, select it. And if I pick the drop down here, so it selects it, and I see, of course, that it's frozen here. So I will thaw that real quickly here. All right. And I want to make sure I have my super elevation defined here. I think I do. But let's just check that. So if I just go ahead and select this here, and then if I go to the super elevation, view tabular editor, this should update in here. Yep, I do. Yep. So there's all this is all defined from that spreadsheet, basically. All right. So the way I got to the criteria to see that, what you do is you simply select your alignment, and you go to Design Criteria Editor right here. All right. And what you would do is basically browse for the, I did the wrong one. Let me do that again. I hit new. We'll go to Design Criteria Editor, and we'll click the Browse button, which is right here. And then you would browse. I don't know if I've saved a shortcut. No, I did not. But it should, I can't remember where these are. These are under like C:, I think it's Program Data. I'm going to take a stab here. and then it's going to be Autodesk. And let's go to C3D 2020, and then ENU. And I went here before, didn't I? And it wasn't there. So if we go to 2021, let's see, ENU, and then, oh, no, I'm in the wrong one. So, okay, if it's not there, then it's going to be under C colon. It's going to be under users, and then this here, and then app data is where it should be, and probably roaming, and then Autodesk, and C3D 2020. Let's try this one here. And nope, I'm in the wrong spot again. There's only one more spot to go. So it's under app data, and then it's going to be under local, and then Autodesk. And C3D 2020, ENU. No, it's not there. Okay, I have to take a look at that, where it is. So we'll just go and look at this one. It's fine. So basically what you do is you just expand the alignments here. And if you go to Super Elevation Tables, and you'll see F.Design Manual instead. And if you click over here, click this, you'll see this is where those tables are. And like I said, so what I do is basically just take a little snippet, and I simply, like, you can use the snippet right here. So I can just pick that. I'll just hit New and just select here, and then basically copy it to clipboard or save it, whatever. It's already saved. It actually copies to clipboard automatically. And then you make a folder of these, and now you actually can see exactly. Again, you can use the design manual, however you want to do it, but this seems to me is much easier. You can actually see what your super elevation rate is based upon your radius. It just makes it a lot easier, okay? All right, I only have 15 minutes here, so let's talk about profiles. All right, so let me go ahead and let's get into that. So again, once you have your alignments, you would go in and create those. Maybe I'll do, I think maybe for another webinar, I'll talk about intersections and doing those and what actually happens, because that's a whole other kind of thing I'd want to show you using offset profiles and things like that, okay? But let's talk about profiles. So once you have your alignment created, again, if we go to the settings tab, right? So there are two types of objects that you want to be aware of. You know, we all call a profile, right? Like this is a profile. We call this a profile, right? But in the world of Civil 3D, it's actually not. This is a profile view. So the grid is the view, and the profile is this object. It's the grade line, right? This is a proposed profile. This is a surface profile, right? There are two types of profiles. Again, so when someone says to you, hey, my profile is not displaying correctly, you have to ask them, well, what do you mean by that? Do you mean your grid, or do you mean the actual profile, which is the grade line? And the reason I mention that is, of course, there's going to be two separate categories for those object types. So if you expand profile here, you see, of course, we have profile and profile views, right? Those are the two object types. So, you know, and you want to be aware of it. And it does kind of get confusing every now and then, especially when you want to do labeling. Like this labeling right here, if I look at this, you know, this is my tangent, this is my proposed elevation data, right? And of course, this is curve data, you know, the K value, vertical curve data, et cetera. This is a profile curve data. And what I mean by that is it's this profile. So it's not going to be under the profile view, it's going to be under the profile object itself, okay? And just like those two object types, right? If you know, just like the alignment, if you right click here, you can go to edit feature settings. And as you can see, again, I'm not going to go over them, all the default settings and styles that you would expect to be able to edit are defined here. And again, very similar, exactly, in fact, like the alignment, here are all the commands for the different, for creating profiles. And here are all the commands related to profile views, like creating a profile view, creating multiple profile views, etc. So you can edit those as well, okay? So the first thing you always want to do is once you have an alignment created, a profile basically cannot exist without an alignment. It has to, it's a child of the alignment. Remember, if you ever want to see how an object looks like or works, just go to the Prospector tab and then find it in there. So here's my alignments category, and here we have the different types of alignments, right? And then if I expand this one here, which is already completed, here's my profiles for this alignment. And here are my profile views for this alignment. If you want to go to them, when in doubt, right click. If you right click here and hit zoom to, it zooms to my profile view. That's the profile view. Now, if we go to CR55, there's nothing there because I haven't created one yet. And so what you want to do first is, you don't have to, but it makes sense to, is I'm going to create a surface profile of my existing ground. So again, if you go to the Home tab, again, just like the alignment, you go to Profile, and then Create Surface Profile. It's usually at the top of the list. You then pick the alignment that you want to go in here. And I pick the surface I want to add, and I'll just click Add here. All right, and then you want to give it a style. You can change it afterwards. It's not a big deal. And so I'll just go ahead and click here. And I want this to be f.existing. Now, if I want to draw this in a profile view, which I do, you could just click the button right here. But I like to always forget this because sometimes people do. They just forget it, and they're like, I got to redo it. I've actually gone to users' computers, and they have like 5 different existing ground profiles because they forgot to click this or they were doing something different. They think they have to recreate it. You don't have to do that. I'm going to click OK. So what it did, as you can see here, it created a brand new profile for this alignment. It's a surface profile, so it's dynamic. If I change the alignment, the surface profile will update automatically. But what I want to do is create a proposed profile. Proposed profile view, my bad. So if you go to the profile view in the profile and section views panel, I can click create profile view. Again, it's a child of the alignment. So you pick the drop down here, you pick the alignment you want it to be a child of. I'll pick my style, and I'll go ahead and pick on this one here. I'll click next. And then as far as station range, we'll just do automatic. That's fine. For profile view height, we can do automatic. But again, you can change this to whatever you want to do. And then here's the profile display options. If I scroll to the right, I want to make sure that I'm not giving it any labels. As you can see here, it is. It says NFPS design. So I'm going to click on this and make sure it's not doing any labels. I don't want this to be labeled. It's an existing profile. Data bands, we'll leave this for now. That's my proposed and existing elevations, which you show. All right, and we'll just click next. I don't have any hatching options. Click this here, click in here, and now I have a surface profile. And if I go ahead and select this, it is not going to be, you're not going to see any grips or anything because it is not, it's a dynamic profile. If I change the alignment, right, it updates the profile of the surface automatically. Right, if I want to kind of see that, and kind of the way I like to work with these, if I have to work with both, is I'll go ahead and pick on this here. I'll do 2 horizontal, and then what I can now do, let me go ahead and auto hide this so we can see this a little clearer, is I can have one be in the the plan view area that I want, all right, and then I can have the other one. So this is going to be which one is this? This is going to be this one here. We'll go ahead and select this, and of course, if I look at my profile view, and I'll go ahead and just change the end of this. Right, so if we look at the end of this here, and I'll just maybe just manipulate it to, let's say, here, right? If I go over here, as long as there's existing ground, notice how, which I was too far away, it basically updated this automatically, right? It's updating the end of that profile automatically because it's reading the actual surface because it's a surface profile, right? So once that step is done, you're basically ready to create a proposed profile. And the way you want to do that is you want to go ahead and just select your profile view. This is one way, just select it. That's a simple way. And then you click on Profile Creation Tools. All right. And as far as design criteria, just like with the alignments, profiles have those as well. Okay. So I would first give it a name. So I always recommend proposed profiles have an underscore. That way, when you go to model them, they go to the top of the list. You don't have to worry about one being called existing. So this will be called underscore CR55. What's your 55th? I'll do proposed grade. I do want labels. And then for my design criteria, I do want the DOTs, which I don't, like I said, I don't have. Actually, no, there you go. So it's, that's what it is. It's under data. That's my problem. I'm going to the wrong folder. So let's go back up here and we'll go to 2020. And then it's under ENU and then data. That was my problem. And then it's under core design standards and Imperial. And here's FDOTs. So I'll pick on FDOT Green Book 2016. And again, if you look over here, you can pick your criteria, which is only one. I do not want check sets, and I'll just click OK. So this will allow you to see your K values. So based upon your design speed, you can do that. Now, if you look at the profile layout tools, you'll see that they are very similar. In fact, they look exactly like the alignment layout tools. In fact, don't get these confused. I've had many a user accidentally have both open. They start clicking on this, thinking they're adding a PI or PVI, point of vertical intersection, and they're adding a PI. So just be aware of that. I'll go ahead and just close this out. All right. And then I'll go ahead and click on this drop down here. And I'll just, as you can see, we have different settings and stuff that we have. All right. So I'll click on draw tangents with curves just to kind of start out with. And let's say I got to start an existing. So I'll go ahead and just snap to the existing right here. All right. And then I would basically just start, kind of drawing in based upon whatever criteria I want. So, I'm going to have a minimum K value. I actually don't know what that is. I have not looked at this here. But obviously, as you can see, Civil 3D is doing it for me based upon, that definition. So let me just press enter. All right. And so this comes up automatically, and my K value is 79. That's right. It's 45 miles an hour. And so that's being done by default. Now, I can change it afterwards. And one of the ways that you can do that is this right here. I meant to show this in the alignment. I'm just getting low on time. So if you look over here, this profile grid view is also available in the alignment realm. And basically, if you look here, it allows you to change basically any of your settings here, as you can see right there. So if I want to increase this vertical curve or change this vertical curve, I can go over here and say, you know what, this should actually be 300. It should be 297.772, right? So 300, press enter, and now you have an even vertical. And of course, it's going to increase the K value, which is good. Okay. Now let's say you have different constraints here, right? Well, first of all, I'm noticing that it's cutting my profile view off a little bit. So don't think you're locked into it. So if I select my profile view, the grid, right? That I can then go to the profile view properties. Again, you want to make sure you understand each one. And I can change this. So I can go over here and say, you know what? I want my minimum elevation to be like, let's say 120, because I want to be able to go below. And for the highest, I want to go to, let's say 180. And that way it makes my profile view a little bigger, which is fine, because that way I can actually see above and below. It's a little much, but it's fine. And then I can basically do that, right? Now, when I create my proposed profiles, I do not actually like to see my grid because you accidentally kind of snap around to that grid. So I should already have one. I think I do. There we go. That is actually, that one's actually, let me actually edit that. I think I had that set to a scale of 1. I was doing something. And yeah, it is. Let's just change that. So that should be 50, or it's 5. And hit apply. There we go. That's better. Okay, so I like to have no grid when I'm creating my profile, because obviously you don't get the snapping, right? So again, same exact kind of set of tools. If I need to actually go in here and draw something, I can just do a fixed tangent. Now, let's say I know for a fact I need to be like a foot above, so I can take a little guess, or I can hover over here. And you should be able to kind of tell, if you hover, you get the tooltips usually. And then my elevation is 147.39. So I could kind of hover again, make sure I'm at 148. I'm at 149. And you can kind of do that if you want to. And let's say I want to draw this here. Again, however you need to do it, you can just draw tangents in, and I'll just draw another tangent, let's say over here. Let's say I need to go this one here, down to here. Again, I have certain constraints based upon, let's say I've got a culvert here I've got to make sure I tie into, right? So I would do that. And then exactly the same tools we had before. So if I click here, fixed, floating, and free. And then I click on free parabola, and then I'll just pick on where I want this to be. Let's go ahead and just join this to this tangent here. And so we'll pick here, and we'll pick here. And again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. Specify curve length, radius, pass through, K value. If you press enter, notice how the default one comes in, because it's showing you that it's based upon your criteria. So I can just do that. And now that K value for a crest curve it's got to be above that. So that's basically what that's doing there. And again, I can do the same thing over here. Click, and then click, and press enter, and then press enter there. And again, if I want to change this, so let's say I want to change this to 150, this is still my panorama. I can go over here, and I can change my curve length to, actually, I'll change it to 200, and it updates automatically. If you make a mistake and you mess up and you think you have to do something again, one of the other things, and again, this is also in the alignment layout tools, you can go right over here where it says delete entity. I can just pick that, pick this, press enter, and it's gone. And I can just redo stuff. So this is the other thing about just doing profiles and alignments. You can just edit these to your heart's content. They're all up here. If you can't find a tool, send us an email, contact us, look to the help, Google it, whatever. I guarantee you there's no reason ever to have to redo an alignment or delete an alignment, start from scratch, etc. Okay? All right.
Okay. Seth, I have a couple questions here that came in. I know we're a little tight on time here, but I'll ask you just one or two. Is there a way to, if there is enough vertical clearance for vehicles in the profile?
Actually, yes. So that's actually a nice little tool here. Let me go ahead and, so basically, if the question is, of course, if you want to make sure that you have a truck, let's say, can a truck actually fit along this alignment? I'm going to do it to this one here because I already have a complete profile. And this actually involves vehicle tracking. So if you have the AEC collection, you have vehicle tracking here. The one thing that this requires is that you set your profile view, which I should already have here, to a 1-to-1 profile. All right, so we'll just do 1-to-1 here, okay? And then what you can do is right over here, there's a vertical clearance command. Again, I'm in the vehicle tracking tab. You can type, WB50 to do a search, and I'll grab the semi here. We'll click proceed. Again, and what it says select object to analyze. It's kind of weird. It should say select profile to analyze. So what you do is, again, it's got to be 1-to-1. Say yes, and then it'll actually draw that truck for you, and you can actually see if this green bottom line is your clearance. That's what the green line is right here. And if you actually want to kind of drive it, you actually can. If we look over here, here's my truck. I can go over to the animate button here, and if we drag this across, you'll see I'm going a little fast, but you see how the truck's driving. And of course, you can press play here and look at it. And you can kind of see if it clears it. But basically, the whole point is that you just look to that bottom line, that bottom green line, and that will show you your clearance. Any other questions, Alan?
Yep. Okay, one more for you. Can you create an alignment for from existing AutoCAD objects?
Oh, yes, actually, you got it. So basically, imagine if you had a polyline, right? So just press enter here, I'm just clicking a polyline. I'll just draw the arc option for here. Let's say I've got this polyline that I drew because I did the stuff by hand. Very simple, straightforward here. Whoops, I clicked the wrong thing. Let's do Home tab, and then create design panel alignment, and then we have create alignment from objects. And depending on where you click, if you click from here, stationing begins over here. If you click from here, stationing begins over here. So I'll click here, and then I'll press enter. And notice how it asks you, do you want to reverse it? I'll just press enter here. And again, all the default settings come up here. So let's say this is US 129. And then you can define your stationing here. So at 200. And then that's fine. I don't want to add curves. I already have curves. So I want to erase existing. I'll do that. I can do design criteria, same thing. And I'll just click OK here. And now you actually have an alignment that's stationed and everything. So yes, you can do alignment, existing stuff or existing objects, no problem.
Can I have you jump back to that PowerPoint for me?
Oh yeah, you bet.
All right, let's go over to the next slide. All right, so thank you guys for joining us. If there are any other questions, anything else that you'd like to discuss or get into a little bit more, you can give us a call at 305-445-6480 and or email us at info@ddscad.com. Thanks again, Seth, and thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.